September 6, 2007. As the clock ticks toward midnight, a quiet desert night envelops eastern Syria. The vast expanse of sand is punctuated only by the occasional breeze whispering through the barren terrain and the flickering lights of distant radar screens across the Middle East. In the control rooms of neighboring nations, technicians monitor their grids, scanning for signs of unusual activity. But on this night, something peculiar unfolds. In the heart of Syria, the radar systems lay wilting under an almost unnatural silence. It's as if a shroud had fallen over the nation, masking what is to come. An air of mystery envelops a discreet installation, one explicitly designed to conceal its existence. A secret facility rumored to house atomic ambitions, nestled in the shadows of international scrutiny. The world is indifferent, eyes turned elsewhere. But tonight, the normalcy of every day is about to be shattered. As the airspace remains unchallenged, military planners are already on the move. Without activation of alarms, without a single warning flag raised, an operation that will obliterate this facility is set into motion. The jets ascend with precision, leaving behind the ordinary routines of military operations and diving into the extraordinary, a covert mission cloaked in secrecy. The irony is stark. An operation that would delve into the heart of Syrian ambition and political depths would soon vanish without a trace from official records. No government would dare to step forth to claim the story. It would be a mission that lived in the shadows, hushed by the weight of its implications. In the aftermath, silence becomes the hallmark of this operation, echoing across the landscape where whispers of dissent were muted. No confirmations from high-ranking officials, no press releases or public acknowledgements, just the vast empty wilderness, forever changed yet concealed from global memory. This is the story of Operation Orchard, the mission that never officially took place. As Western intelligence agencies began monitoring Syria in the early 2000s, the prevailing consensus was that the nation had little to no aspirations for pursuing a nuclear program. Analysts viewed Syria's military capabilities and scientific infrastructure as insufficient for any serious nuclear ambitions, especially given the stark contrasts with its regional neighbor, Israel. The perception was simple. A country grappling with economic challenges and political instability simply did not have the bandwidth to engage in nuclear proliferation. However, unbeknownst to many, a clandestine partnership was beginning to take shape in the shadows of international scrutiny. During this period, North Korea, a nation well versed in nuclear development, began extending its expertise to Syria, forming an alliance rooted in mutual interests. This cooperation culminated in the construction of an undeclared nuclear reactor near Deir ez-Zor, a location that at first glance seemed an unlikely site for such a controversial project. This reactor's position in the isolated desert of eastern Syria was strategic for several reasons. Firstly, the remote landscape provided an obvious cover, allowing construction efforts to proceed with minimal oversight from international watchdogs. The secrecy surrounding the construction was palpable. Heavy machinery and building materials moved into the site under the cloak of night, surrounded by tight security and a culture of silence. The Syrian regime was acutely aware of the potential ramifications should the existence of such a facility be revealed, and thus they meticulously orchestrated its development away from prying eyes. Importantly, the reactor went completely unmentioned in International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) reports, which typically monitor such projects globally. The absence of inspections meant that alarms were not raised in the usual forums where transparency was expected. As construction of the reactor progressed, however, US intelligence had begun picking up on unusual activities through high-resolution satellite imagery. Analysts began noticing distinct shapes emerging in the arid terrain that bore an alarming resemblance to structures seen at the Yongbyon reactor in North Korea. This resemblance did not just pose questions about Syria's nuclear intentions, but also hinted at the depths of the collaboration between the two nations. The closer inspection of these images revealed not only the outline of the reactor, but also supporting infrastructure indicative of a nuclear program that sought to go largely undetected. As the evidence began to accumulate, it challenged the earlier assumptions made by Western powers regarding Syria's nuclear capabilities. It served as a stark reminder of how easily preconceived notions can be dismantled by the quiet, methodical actions of nations intent on pursuing ambitious agendas, even when the broader world believes they are not capable of such endeavors. The implications were profound, underscoring the complexities of global geopolitics and the intricate web of alliances that can go unnoticed until it's nearly too late. In the dimly lit corridors of a luxury hotel in Vienna, the atmosphere was thick with energy, but hidden in the shadows, an operation of monumental importance was silently unfolding. The elegance of the hotel belied the high-stakes mission being executed by Mossad, Israel's legendary intelligence agency. They were here to confront one of the most significant threats to their nation, a Syrian official ensconced in the world of nuclear weapons development. As night cloaked the city, the senior Syrian official reclined at a table in the hotel's opulent restaurant, oblivious to the precision-oriented chess game being played just a few floors above him. With plates piled high and waitstaff flitting in and out, he enjoyed what would likely be his last quiet meal for a long while. Meanwhile, a team of Mossad operatives had already figured out their plan down to the last detail. They were about to execute a brazen hotel room raid that would change everything. Dressed in dark suits and bearing an air of professionalism that was almost intimidating, the team ascended the grand staircase, each member acutely aware of what was at stake. This wasn't just another mission. It was a crucial moment where failure could mean the difference between peace and nuclear escalation in the region. Each operative moved with purpose, every step bringing them closer to the room that housed critical information. Once they arrived at the door, a sense of tension settled in. The room was equipped with the familiar electronic locks that would thwart an amateur, but not this team. With remarkable efficiency, they picked the lock in seconds. The door swung open, revealing a luxurious yet understated hotel room, sparsely decorated, a perfect sanctuary for secrets. Inside, they could already hear the clinking of cutlery from the dining room below, a reminder of the ticking clock. Their leader, a veteran agent known only as Elia, signaled, and they slipped inside like whispers through the shadows. What lay ahead could not afford a single misstep. Every corner of the room had to be scanned for cameras or listening devices. One wrong move would compromise the entire operation. They quickly spotted the laptop and phone resting innocently on the desk. As they set to work, a palpable tension filled the air, the kind that could leave your heart racing. Time felt elastic but relentless, every second a reminder of just how fragile their plan was. With surgical precision, the team began cloning the devices. Elia's hands never shook as she planted the cloning software, while another operative kept watch, eyes trained on the door. They were not merely stealing information, they were extracting a lifeline, proof that could change the balance of power in the Middle East. The sound of a laugh from the dining room echoed through the walls, and Elia couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. One slip, one attention drawn, and they could all be in the headlines for the wrong reasons. As they copied files and documents, what they discovered filled them with a mix of dread and determination. Hundreds of photographs, each one revealing the construction of a nuclear reactor, witness to a plan that had been shrouded in secrecy. More jarring were the images of North Korean engineers inspecting the site, their presence hinting at a precarious alliance that could threaten countless lives. With their cash secured, time was slipping away. The urgency weighed heavily as Elia gestured for the team to regroup. They quickly packed up their gear, moving as though they were mere shadows, taking only what was necessary, leaving the room in pristine condition. As they exited, the Syrian official was still blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just steps away. Even as they retreated into the night, the adrenaline still charged the air. This wasn't just a mission, it was the embodiment of Mossad's hallmark: clean, surgical, and invisible. With the proof now firmly in their grasp, the stakes of the game had risen tremendously. They were one step closer to thwarting a threat that loomed ever larger on their horizon, and it would soon demand a response. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Jerusalem, a palpable tension filled the air within the walls of the Israeli intelligence headquarters. Mossad had just delivered crucial intelligence, a series of photos revealing the existence of a clandestine nuclear reactor nestled deep within Syrian territory. This was not mere speculation. It was irrefutable proof crafted by their daring efforts to infiltrate and gather intel. The images, each brimming with implications, depicted what appeared to be a facility designed for nuclear proliferation. Israeli intelligence analysts gathered in a dimly lit room, hearts racing as they scrutinized the photos. Every detail was dissected, every shadow analyzed. The realization took hold: this reactor, concealed under veils of secrecy, posed an existential threat not only to Israel but to the entire region. Their whispers echoed with urgency, each analyst battling the weight of potential consequences. This was a moment that could alter the course of history. As the analysis reached a crescendo, Israel's leadership convened in the war room, a stark contrast to the bustling streets outside. Prime Minister Ehud Olmert stood at the head of a long table, flanked by military leaders and cabinet members. The mood was tense. The stakes couldn't have been higher. As the photos illuminated the screen, silence enveloped the room. An audible gasp resonated as eyes widened. The implications were staggering. Here lay the evidence that could justify immediate action. The world would not stand by idly if that reactor were to become operational. Yet, as the shock began to settle, another layer of complexity unfolded. The political debate ignited. Should they act swiftly, seizing the moment, the pulse of their survival, or should they consult Washington, their long-standing ally? The room buzzed with conflicting views, each leader weighing the potential fallout. The urgency was palpable, every heartbeat a reminder of the ticking clock. Time was against them, and every passing moment increased the risk of the reactor becoming operational. In a hushed tone, Olmert penned a private message to President George W. Bush. It was a desperate plea, underscored by a sense of urgency that only he could convey. "We cannot wait," it implied. "The longer we delay, the more perilous our position becomes." But in Washington, the response was measured, fraught with caution. The US hesitated. Was another military strike in the Middle East truly advisable? The spectre of increased regional tension loomed large. As Olmert awaited the response, the weight of each minute intensified. He understood that every hour lost could empower Syria to fortify its defenses further. Time wasn't merely a factor, it was an enemy. The burden lay heavily on the shoulders of the Israeli decision-makers, knowing that their next move could set off a chain reaction, one that would ripple through the fabric of not just the Middle East, but the world. The clock was ticking, tensions were rising. What would they decide? The moment of truth loomed heavy in the air as high-ranking officials gathered in a secure room, faces lit only by the glow of a single screen displaying satellite images. The decision had been made. Israel would act alone. It was a cold, calculating choice made amid rising tensions and relentless threats. There would be no assistance from allies, no second opinions, just a unified command under the shadow of urgency, Operation Orchard. In hushed tones, the order was relayed to the Israeli Air Force, where a select group of pilots received their briefing. This wasn't just another mission, it was a matter of national security cloaked in secrecy. Codename Operation Orchard. The plan was straightforward, yet fraught with peril. Eliminate Syria's nuclear reactor before it could become operational. The implications of failure were grave, and everyone understood the stakes. Pilots, known for their precision and professionalism, absorbed the details laid before them with cold determination. Among them were the F-15I and F-16I fighter jets, selected for their unmatched range and accuracy. The F-15I, outfitted for deep strikes, could reach targets well beyond Israel's borders, while the F-16I, a nimble powerhouse, was poised for swift, decisive action. These aircraft were not just tools, they symbolized Israel's resolve, each marking the beginning of the end for a looming threat. As the mission was laid out, the tension broke just slightly. Brief glances exchanged among pilots and crew, nods of understanding and commitment. They were not just soldiers on a mission, they were guardians of their nation. The stakes were personal, echoing the histories of their families and the whispered stories of conflicts past. Each pilot carried the weight of countless souls who depended on their success. Meanwhile, the shadows of Israeli intelligence loomed large. Mossad's continuing surveillance played a pivotal role, ensuring that the exact coordinates of the reactor were locked in with unerring accuracy. Each satellite image and report, meticulously analyzed, confirmed that all systems were go. This wasn't a game, it was the culmination of years of vigilance and preparedness, a moment where every second counted. As the countdown to launch approached, the air bristled with a quiet intensity. There would be no celebrations, no exuberant send-offs. This mission demanded focus, the kind that cuts through emotion and drills straight into the heart of duty. Each pilot took a deep breath, mentally rehearsing the sequence of their actions, math and instinct working in harmony as they prepared for a dance with fate. The time to attack was near, and with it came the cold realization that their actions would ripple far beyond the borders of their nation. When the moment finally arrived, they'd be ready. Precision, not celebration, would be their legacy. In the silence before the storm, they steeled themselves, embodying a legacy of resilience that defined their very existence. Operation Orchard wasn't just a name, it was a vital chapter in Israel's ongoing story of survival. The clock struck midnight on September 6, 2007. Beneath the darkened sky, a select group of Israeli jets sliced through the air, their silhouettes imposing against a backdrop of stars. As they hurtled over Turkey, a palpable tension built among the pilots. Each breath held a weight of responsibility, a sense of purpose intertwined with the knowledge that in just moments they would alter the course of an unseen war. Inside the cockpit, Commander Levi's pulse raced, sharp against the stillness surrounding them. He glanced briefly at his co-pilot, Marta, who met his gaze. They both understood the stakes. Underneath their calculated demeanor lay the heavy burden of duty. They weren't just pilots, they were guardians, standing sentinel against threats beyond their borders. With each passing second, the intensity heightened, wrapping around them like a thick shroud. As they crossed into Syrian airspace, the world seemed to fall away. Communications went dark, complete radio silence. It was as if time itself paused. The only sounds were the hum of the jets and the whispers of fate echoing in the hearts of those within. The Mossad's electronic warfare unit had already engaged their clandestine tactics, cloaking their presence from Syria's vigilant eyes. Radar systems that could have spotted them lay blind, rendered useless by the invisible hand of technological mastery. Levi's fingers danced over the controls, muscles taut with anticipation. He could feel the weight of the payload, a formidable force designed to obliterate the facility hidden deep within the Syrian landscape. In the distance, barely visible through the cockpit's glass canopy, the target loomed, innocuous yet menacing, a stronghold of secrets poised for destruction. "On my mark," he murmured, voice barely more than a breath. The stillness was crushed beneath the gravity of his words. A quiet acknowledgment passed between him and Marta, a shared understanding of what lay ahead, a moment tempered with fear, honor, and resolve. As the target neared, he squeezed the trigger. The payload fell, a somber elegy for a future without shadows. In less than 2 minutes, a blinding light erupted below them, illuminating the dark skies with a ferocity that painted everything in stark contrast. The facility was obliterated in an instant, a mere flicker of existence in the grand scheme of conflict. The silence that followed was deafening, an abscess of sound swallowing the world. Sitting in the cockpit, time seemed to freeze. The aftermath unfolded in a haunting tranquility. There were no cheers, no celebratory banter over the radios. Instead, a shared reflection blanketed the crew. They exchanged brief, solemn glances filled with a profound understanding. They had executed their mission with unparalleled precision, yet they carried the weight of destruction. As they turned for home, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins, the jets cruised through the night air, unhindered and unnoticed. With the radar still blind and the operation flawlessly executed, it was as if they had performed an elaborate magic trick, vanishing without a trace. The journey back was punctuated by the heartbeats of the pilots, a silent camaraderie forming amongst them. Nothing needed to be spoken. They all bore witness to the unspoken truth. In the quiet aftermath of an operation, anonymity felt like a cloak woven from shadows, shrouding them against the harsh light of accountability. The camaraderie was palpable, a sacred bond forged in silence, reminding each of them that while war demanded sacrifice, the value of peace was immeasurable. As dawn broke over eastern Syria, a heavy fog of uncertainty enveloped the region, leaving global observers reeling. In households far from the desert sands, people awoke to news of a mysterious explosion, stirring a mix of concern and intrigue. Reports indicated a massive blast near a small town, igniting speculation like wildfire. To the world, it appeared to be just another incident in a country riddled with war and strife. However, the Syrian government offered an explanation that seemed almost convenient. An ammunition depot had detonated. But for those trained to observe the political landscape, the narrative began to unravel quickly. US intelligence analysts delved into satellite images and other data only to discover something alarming. The site in question was no longer there. It was as if it had vanished overnight, leaving behind only the lingering echoes of the blast and a perplexed world trying to piece together what had transpired. Amid the rubble, a profound silence enveloped the Syrian government. No protests arose, no official acknowledgement followed. This absence of communication spoke volumes. In a region where words can be weapons, their quiet was deafening. Many whispered among themselves, "What aren't they telling us?" This was not simply a denial of the incident. It suggested a deeper, more unsettling truth lurking beneath the surface. The prevailing theory began to form. Could this silence reflect fear of what was no longer there? After all, declassified US briefings would later confirm suspicions that lingered in the minds of analysts and citizens alike. Reports indicated a nuclear facility had been destroyed, the remnants of a program that never had the opportunity to reach its full potential. The briefing highlighted the site as a fully constructed but unactivated facility. Those haunting words left little room for doubt. In the basement of their homes, families huddled together, absorbing not just the news, but the implications of what it meant for their future. They understood that this mystery was about more than just physical structures. It was about the shadow of potential nuclear capability in a volatile region. The realization spread through communities like a chill, mingling with the dust of the recent explosion. Strategies plotted in government offices now had human faces. While uncertainties loomed and the world grappled with the ramifications, the silence from Damascus spoke louder than any speech or proclamation could. People wondered if they were caught in a web of greater geopolitical games, and in that silence they found a shared concern that transcended borders. After all, how can a nation conceal monumental events and still expect to engage with the world? The answers remained elusive, but the questions continued to echo. As we piece together the fragments of this event, it's essential to remember that behind the cold, hard data lay the stories of real lives, lives caught in the crosshairs of power plays and secrets. And while the Syrian government remained tight-lipped, the world, perhaps more than ever, began to ask what else lay hidden in the shadows. The aftermath of Israel's decisive strike on the nuclear facility was felt far beyond its borders, sending rippling shockwaves through the geopolitical landscape. In an age where ambiguity often shrouds international affairs, Israel's bold move established a precedent. It sent a crystal-clear message. When it comes to potential nuclear threats, the nation is willing to act decisively and preemptively. In Tehran, the echo of those explosions likely served as a wake-up call. For years, Iran has flirted with the idea of nuclear capability, bolstered by its adversarial stance against Israel and the West. The operation forced Iranian leaders to assess the stability of their ambitions, realizing they could no longer operate under the assumption that their pursuit of nuclear power would go unchecked. Eyes turned downward within the regime, where discussions about moving forward were swiftly replaced with whispers of caution. The pause indicated a shift in strategy, marked by a newfound wariness. Any aspirations towards developing nuclear weapons were met with the sobering reminder that Israel, backed by sophisticated intelligence and a determination to ensure its survival, would not hesitate to act. Meanwhile, in North Korea, a nation that has long viewed its nuclear arsenal as a crucial asset, reaction was also swift, albeit more subdued. Although the world often braces for bluster from Pyongyang, this time there was an unusual silence. Reports indicated that North Korean technicians, who had been collaborating with Iranian scientists on various nuclear projects, quietly removed themselves from the scene. It was as if they had taken a step back, recognizing that in an unpredictable world, the stakes were incredibly high. Their withdrawal was an acknowledgment that alliances built on nuclear aspirations might not be enough to shield them from a similarly aggressive response as seen in Israel. The United States, observing from the sidelines, expressed appreciation for Israel's precision in executing its operation. Yet true to its diplomatic nature, it also maintained a cloak of plausible deniability regarding direct involvement. In this carefully orchestrated dance of international relations, the US found itself praising effective results without claiming ownership, allowing both nations to retain their sovereignty while pushing the agenda of global security forward. Underlying the efficacy of these operations lies an intrinsic philosophy of Mossad, Israel's legendary intelligence agency. The essence of their approach revolves around the principle of prevention through silence. Unlike the grandstanding seen in other nations, Mossad operates in layers of secrecy, achieving results without the need for speeches or photo opportunities. Their actions tell the story. Every decision is made with purpose and precision in the shadows, where the plume of diplomacy is replaced by the steadfastness of strategic choice. This silent resolve resonates deeply within Israel's national ethos, showcasing that sometimes real power lies not in what you tell the world, but in what you do quietly and effectively. In this era of global uncertainty, Israel's actions have rewritten the playbook for rogue nations, signaling that the ramifications of pursuing nuclear ambitions could be steep. For Iran and North Korea, the lesson is clear. The pursuit of nuclear capabilities involves risks far beyond technical challenges. It demands respect for the realities of global power dynamics. As we reflect on this, we can't help but wonder how these developments will shape the future of international diplomacy and the delicate balance of power in a world fraught with tension. The shadows of secrecy that once cloaked Israel's intelligence operations are starting to lift, revealing a compelling narrative of determination and strategic mastery. Years after the historic operation, the world was granted a clearer window into what truly transpired during those pivotal days. Through declassified fragments, satellite images unveiled by the International Atomic Energy Agency, reports from US intelligence, and candid testimonies from Israeli pilots, we're piecing together a more complete picture of an event that changed the course of geopolitics. Let's start with the satellite images. In 1981, Israel conducted a meticulously planned operation targeting Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor. Decades later, the IAEA would release satellite imagery showcasing the facility before and after the strike. These images revealed the precision of Israel's attack and the risk they undertook to ensure that the reactor could not produce weapons-grade material. The comparisons tell a stark story. One moment, a facility under construction, bustling with activity. The next, a smoking ruin. It's thrilling to imagine these images being pored over by military experts, piecing together the intelligence gathered, confirming suspicions and assessing threat levels. Simultaneously, US intelligence reports began trickling in, offering insights that added to the growing narrative. These reports, often labeled as classified, hinted at the extensive collaboration between Israeli intelligence and American agencies. We learned that the US had been monitoring Iraq's nuclear ambitions for some time, a silent acknowledgement of the looming threat. And amidst this clandestine dance of information exchange, small fragments from interviews with US officials reveal their surprise and respect for the boldness of Israel's actions. One senior analyst reflected, "The Mossad had their hands on the pulse of Iraq's nuclear ambitions. We were aware, but they took action when we hesitated." Pilot testimonies also add another layer to our understanding. Years after the operation, some of the Israeli pilots began to share their experiences. You can imagine these men, now older, perhaps sitting across the table in dimly lit cafes, their voices tinged with a mixture of pride and somber reflection. One pilot recounted a night of flying under a starlit sky, whispering about the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he initiated the final approach. In the cockpit, he said, "It wasn't just a mission, it was the weight of our nation's future." Such words evoke a personal connection, a reminder that each decision, each flight path followed, held the potential for monumental change. Interestingly, despite the overwhelming evidence emerging over the years, Mossad has consistently chosen silence, never confirming the intricate details of their intelligence operations. It leaves us with this lingering question of why. Was it a matter of maintaining strategic ambiguity, or was it a deeper commitment to shrouding their methods in mystery, ensuring the world sees only the stark outcome of their efforts? Yet, without their decisive intelligence, it's clear the story might have unfolded differently. As we sift through these fragments of declassified information, each piece reveals not just a military operation, but a saga of intelligence prowess, national pride, and the stakes that nations dare to gamble. The operation against Osirak wasn't merely a tactical strike, it was a statement, a declaration that the world could not turn a blind eye to the emergence of potential threats. And as we connect these dots, the consequences of such actions continue to ripple through global politics even today. As we delve deeper into the shadows of history, we confront a solemn reality: the mission that never happened. It's a narrative that exists outside the pages of official military records, yet plays a pivotal role in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. In a quiet corner of Israel's military history, this mission remains conspicuously absent, a void where triumph and loss blend into an eerie silence. Imagine for a moment a world where Syria, not far from Israel's borders, becomes a nuclear power. The spectre of a nuclear-armed neighbor loomed heavily over the region, a potential threat that carried not just the weight of weapons, but also the weight of uncertainty across countless lives. In a bold and covert operation, Israeli forces successfully intervened, averting a catastrophe that could have altered the fate of millions. It was a mission of necessity, executed with precision, and yet it faded into obscurity.